Good afternoon, welcome back everyone here in the auditorium, and of course everyone following home, welcome back as well.
We hope you've all had an inspiring day, and now it's time for the wrap-up. During this closing session, we will mainly focus on the future of European digital policy.
Yes, and in a few moments we will listen to a keynote from Patricia Besson, and she will provide insights from the perspective of an innovative researcher. Afterwards, we will have a panel discussion with panelists from various corners of Europe, and we will discuss the future from different angles. We'll also address some conclusions derived from the several breakout sessions today.
Okay, and afterwards we invite you to join us for the cocktail where you can continue discussing this day's event. One more thing before we start, because Axel is still here at my right-hand side, and she will again capture the session on paper. So thank you, Axel. Let's start with the closing session. And as mentioned, we will start with none other than Patricia Besson. For 17 years, she has been conducting research on the application of AI. And since 2018, she has held the position of Head of Research and Technology Lab at Thales, a French multinational that is a global leader in new deep tech innovations. And with her presentation titled The Future of Digital Europe, From Research to Market, a perspective from a Thales researcher, well, she will delve into the elements that contribute to successfully translating research into applications, with a focus on the need for trust and the role for people. So she will also explore the link with European digitization policy. I think, Patricia, the floor is yours.
So, good evening, everyone. So, first of all, I'm very happy to be here. And I would like to thank the host for giving me this opportunity to say some words about the future of digital Europe, and especially how we can improve when we look at turning research into reality when dealing with such digital technologies. So I have to say that today I already heard a lot of talks that were saying very interesting things that will converge with what I will be saying today, so I'm very happy about that. And I will share my view on the subject, speaking from my position as a Thales researcher, as has been said. So first, let me give a brief recap about Thales. So Thales is a worldwide player in the digital technology field, with activities more or less balanced between defense and civil markets, and with a very strong and true commitment to ethics and responsibility. And the point that I would like to outline here, given the subject of the talk, is that Thales is not only a major manufacturer, but also a true R&D player. We have 1 billion euros self-funded R&D, and we are internationally recognized as innovators. So I guess this is a good starting position for thinking about how to turn research into reality in the digital field. And as for myself, I am part of the Thales Group Research Center, so this question really speaks to me, because I'm facing it on a regular basis. And I have to say that when I was asked to speak about this subject, my first thought was, oh, okay, this is a very good question, and I would be more than happy to know the magic wand. But the truth is that, unfortunately, there is no magic wand. And even worse than that, if you take a look at the facts, you can observe that the path from an initial concept up to a concrete product is not straightforward at all. Quite on the contrary, you can observe a kind of funnel effect as we climb the steps of the technical readiness level, so as the product gets more and more mature. And I speak of a funnel because there is a strong drop around the TRL 4 to 6, yes. And this drop is often referred to as the death valley of innovation. And it occurs when you have to switch from the research world to the product world. But my conviction is that this funnel effect is something that we have to accept as fully part of the innovation process. Innovation is a risk, and we have to explore and invest widely to get the benefits. And this is even more true as the complexity of the technology gets higher. And in this perspective, I have to recognize Europe as a big enabler. With programs such as Horizon Europe, it helps supporting the risk, well, especially at the research levels. And more important than the financial risk, as it has been said this morning, it's that these programs, they allow to boost collaboration and cross-fertilization. And this is essential for accelerating research and staying at the state of the art. And also, a very important feature of this program is that they provide a securing contractual framework with win-win conditions among partners. It really is the collaboration between partners. Well, of course, there are also some limitations because it adds some administrative overhead, it adds some complexity to the project, and it may extend the global lead time, but okay, nothing is perfect, there's still room for improvement. Now, all I've said up to now is description of the current situation. Now, the question is, how can we be sure to make this, the mouth of this funnel as wide as possible and not turn it into a bottleneck when dealing with new digital technologies? So just to make it clear, from now on, when I will refer to digital technologies, I will specifically focus on artificial intelligence because it's more my field of expertise. So the point is, are there specific issues and challenges to be aware of and to address when we try to optimize this path from research to reality as far as artificial intelligence is concerned? Well, I think you have all guessed that the answer is yes, and I will go on with that now. So, to my opinion, the first big issue is, when speaking about artificial intelligence in Europe, what is the battle that we want to fight? This is a point that has been already mentioned this morning. Here you got a view of the rich and diverse industrial European ecosystem. And my conviction is that we should rely on the strengths that we have in that ecosystem. Then the strengths that we have, they are all these major leading industries in transport, in space, in health, robotics, aeronautics, and so on. So if we want to rely on the strong industrial sectors, it means that our priority should be to consider artificial intelligence as an enabler for maintaining and pushing the solution and systems of these existing industries to the cutting edge, so that we can keep them at the top in the world race. So this is kind of a B2B vision of artificial intelligence, and it has to be understood in opposition to a B2C artificial intelligence vision, where artificial intelligence will be directly the final product. This B2C AI vision, it's the position taken by companies such as the GAFAM, for example, when they develop and they sell vocal assistants, for example. And so, if we are rather looking and trying to focus on AI as an enabler, rather than the final product, what are the consequences? The consequences is that, are that it drastically changes the challenges that we are facing. Because B2B AI is a demanding AI. We are looking for qualitative AI. Indeed, okay, let's imagine you want to use artificial intelligence to improve an existing system, so for example, a flight management system. So the flight management system that is used in a plane to help the pilot for guiding the plane. So you can immediately see that, firstly, you have to keep in lines with the reality of the operational needs. And secondly, you can see that the guarantees that you will have to provide in terms of trustworthiness will have nothing to do with those to be provided when proposing, again, a vocal assistant, for example. Because if your vocal assistant is not very performant, if it does not switch to the right music piece when you ask for it, well, okay, you will be irritated, you will be frustrated, but if your flight management system is not very performant, you might die. So the consequences are not equivalent. So if we consider artificial intelligence as an enabler for improving industrial products with new functionalities, and if we want this to happen in the reality, there are 3 levels that can be considered: a business level, an organizational level, and a technological level. And for each of them, there are challenges to tackle. So let's consider first the business level. So my maybe limited view as a researcher, what business players want in the end is a good return on investment. So for that, they want to play in a trusted environment and they want to limit the risk. And to limit the risk, they are looking for stability. And for that, pragmatic and balanced regulation of artificial intelligence goes in the right direction. Secondly, in the context of collaborative projects, the complementarity of the partners over the value chain is very important. Again, this has been discussed this morning, and the problem is that in artificial intelligence, in this ecosystem, it's not that easy to identify these complementary partners and to set up the correct partnership consortium that cover this value chain in a nice way. And finally, what is essential is that there are identified and concrete business perspectives beyond the investment phase. And on that point, Europe can help by offering the perspectives. For example, in Thales, we are invested in a lot of different projects with the EuroKCI initiative, so quantum communication infrastructures, because we consider that this criterion about perspectives was met. So, okay. Now the second level is the organizational level. And I think that the first big challenge to take up with AI is to achieve a mutual acculturation between the operational, the business field, and the research world. So it means that experts on both sides have to get to know the constraints and the practices of the other side so as to be able to work together sooner in the development cycle. In fact, one of the challenges of artificial intelligence is that you cannot just follow a sequential development process where you said, okay, I will unlock the issue at the research level and then I will just integrate all that and develop that in the product. Because you have issues to solve all along the model life cycle, at the conception level and even once the model is deployed on the operational field. So you really have to get this interaction between these different worlds. And also the second challenge is about data. Data is the fuel of machine learning. So machine learning is a kind of artificial intelligence approach where you need data, you need a lot of different and representative data to get up with a good model. Sorry. And again, just to come back to my first point, you need data, but you also need the expertise, so the business expertise, to be able to use this data properly. So data without expertise and expertise without data, it's not good adequacy. The problem with the data is that usually you don't have a direct access to all the data that you might need for your need. Because the data, they belong to different owners. So for example, if I take back my example of the flight management system, you might need data from the aircraft, from the airports, you might need weather forecast data, even maybe pilots data, depending on the new functionality you want to offer. And I think it's an illusion to think that open data will be the solution, because there are data that will never be open. For example, if I take my flight management system to be put on a military aircraft, you can immediately see that military data will not be open. So I think it would be very useful if European programs could offer a securing contractual framework for data sharing among partners with win-win conditions. So similarly as they were able to provide at the research level for collaboration. So here, will that be a possibility to offer the basis for facilitating this exchange of data among partners without saying that the solution will be open data? And also another point is that it should be acknowledged that industrial research has a role to play alongside academic research. Okay, there was a remark this morning about the sleeping body of Europe, speaking about industrial that might not commit enough in research. So I can see the point, actually. It's true that if AI is an enabler, so it's not your core expertise, you will have given inertia to jump in it. But there are some industrials that took the step and that are investing in research and that can be at a very good level, at top level. So I think Europe has to be aware of that and encourage them and accompany them. Okay, last but not least, let's consider the technological level. So actually, there are still several scientific issues to be solved before artificial intelligence models can go widely in industrial products. Of course, these models, they have to achieve the expected level of performance for the task they are designed for. But as I said, we are speaking of demanding AI, and big challenges are still ahead as far as trustworthiness, strategic autonomy, and ecological footprint are concerned, and that's without forgetting that the human must be kept in a central role. So let me just illustrate what I mean by the question of artificial intelligence trustworthiness. I already told you that we don't have the same level of expectation on that point for a flight management system, for example, or for a vocal assistant. But now let me take another kind of example based on the buzz of last year. I mean generative large language models. So as you can see here, behind me, you can ask this kind of model any kind of question, and they will provide you with an answer. And the information in this answer that they might be far from anything true in the real life. Such here, for example, a whole theory about eggs, co-eggs, for example. So when you see that, you can think that this model, they are behaving. But in fact, it's not the case. Because this model, they are designing to produce correct text, correct sentences. But they do not pretend, or they should not be pretending at that stage, to be knowledge model. So they are language model, not knowledge models. And so this illustrates one of the first criteria, quality that we are expecting for trustworthy AI, which is explainability. Meaning that you have, as a user, or as an operator, or as a certification authority, to be able to understand what a model is made for, and when and how to use it, so as to use it properly and to be able to understand why it produces a given output or a given input. And of course, a second trustworthiness feature is validity. That is, when you're using the model properly, you want the output of your model to be valid, to be exact. Okay, so besides these explainability and validity criteria at Thales, we consider that there are two more features to fulfill for getting to trustworthy AI models. And these are security, that is the robustness of your model against changing context, whether these changes are natural or coming from adversarial attacks. And of course, responsibility, that is your model must be compliant with ethical, legal, and regulatory frameworks. But the point is that today, we don't know how to provide convincing evidences in this four dimension. And this is an obstacle for taking artificial intelligence out of the laboratory world. So how do we go on with that? So as I said, if artificial intelligence is an enabler for improving a product, in the end, it is the product in the system that must be qualified and which must meet trustworthiness requirements. Your AI model will only be a brick in the system. So I take back my example of the flight monitoring system. Today, we have established processes in the industry to guarantee the safety of such kind of system. We have standards that define the requirements, define the guidelines to follow, And we can design the system, so system engineer can make the proper requirements so as to be compliant with these demands of the standards. And in the end, you can produce your system and so that everyone can feel confident when boarding on a plane. But the problem is that artificial intelligence is challenging this whole process, and especially machine learning models, because they are statistical approaches. And what I mean by that is that this kind of model, their intrinsic power is that they do not require that you define what you want to recognize. For example, if you are looking at an image and you said, okay, I want the model to be able to detect all the cars in the image. You don't have to specify and to describe what is a car. You will just feed the model with a lot of different images of cars in different contexts and trying to be as exhaustive as possible, and then the model will implicitly learn what is a car. But the problem is that, okay, how do you deal with that in the standard safety process? Because, okay, we don't have defined requirement describing the car. So how can we be sure that we have provided enough example in enough different contexts to be able to provide some guarantee of the output of our models? So again, to work on that, to adapt the processes, the existing processes, well, I think it's a good idea to start from the existing processes because we can go step by step. And to do that, you have to work in close interaction between researcher and operational and also certification authority so that you can define what should be done and what it is possible to do with respect to the actual state of the technology and what can be reached in the near future. So we come back to the point I mentioned before about the mandatory acculturation and close interaction between different worlds. So the next challenge is the strategic autonomy. There will be a lot of things to say about this point, but here I will just mention that the main idea is that Europe has to maintain a leading position on some industrial segment, and this must be done through keep investing in research. So you have to keep this capacity of analysis and foresight, and you can do that by investing in a strength R&D. And if you do that, you will be able to build fair and balanced relationships with players along the whole value chain, so to find the complementarity in a pertinent way. We have to be in the position to build this favorable interdependency on the artificial intelligence ecosystem because we cannot be at the top on the whole value chain in all the situations, as it has been said this morning. Okay, and the last two challenges are the ecological impact of artificial intelligence. This is really a big challenge ahead. And I think we are really at the very beginning of considering this challenge and trying to go on with that. And then there is a question of people on 2 points here. First, we need people that will have the expertise for addressing the technological challenges I mentioned, so experts that can tackle all these issues that I mentioned. And then we need to think about how to make sure that these new technologies are understood by everyone in the society so as to use them properly and to master the technology rather to being fooled by them. So I think this is a very important point for our democracies. And okay, that's conclude my talk. So to sum up, I think that we have to rely on the strengths that we have in Europe by considering artificial intelligence as an enabler for our top economic sector to stay at the top. And as a consequence, this means different challenges to handle. Business challenges with pragmatic regulation for stability, operational challenges with acculturation between research and operational worlds, and technological challenges with the foremost question of building trust with artificial intelligence. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia. Please take a seat. This brings us straight to the core of this closing sessions. What actions are needed to achieve a digital EU policy? I'm very curious to hear also what has been discussed in the other breakout sessions. So we're going to hold a little panel discussion. I invite the other panelists to join us on stage.
Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Just sit here, no?
I think
Okay.
one panelist has a technical problem, but he's coming. I will start already. Patricia, we know you already, and we know Thales, so thank you for joining us also for the panel discussion. Ladies first. Kirke Maar, Manager of AI and Robotics of Estonia, the Estonian European Digital Innovation Hub. First of all, a question. What are you guys doing exactly?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. First of all, it's my honor to be here with you. AI and Robotics Estonia is the only IDIH in Estonia, and we are supporting companies in adapting AI and robotic solutions. At the moment, we are mainly focusing on manufacturing and production companies, helping them understand where they should invest in terms of AI and robotics and why they should, concerning all the risks and ethical issues also in the matter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then we have Benoît Mack. He's a professor at the Université de Louvain and also founder of the TRAIL Institute.
Right.
Same question, what does TRAIL do?
TRAIL stands for Trusted AI Labs. So it's a group of 5 universities, 4 research centers, and we have a strong focus on human-AI interaction, especially group of humans with AI, how we can collect different opinions and create decisions with AI that are trustworthy. And we have 4 domains of application: medicine, media, mobility, and manufacturing, 4M.
Okay, that's very clear. Thank you, Benoît. Thibaut Kleiner, Director at DG Connect and also responsible for the Digital Europe program. Very important. You've had a long career at the European Commission, and now as a director at DG Connect, you're responsible for the Digital Europe program. What does that entail exactly?
So first of all, I would like to thank also the Belgian presidency for today's event. In DG Connect, we co-organized the conference, so I really hope you had a good day today. I mean, I personally enjoyed very much the networking, the sessions, very rich. And I think that we are, with this concluding session, really have the opportunity to wrap up all the nice discussions. So DG Connect is the house of digital in the European Commission. In my role, I am in charge indeed of all the program, the funding basically, Digital Europe, Horizon Europe in particular, but I also deal with the better regulation, the interinstitutional relations. So all the legislation we've developed in the last 5 years has been very, very significant. And we try also to work in my services on the international issues, so trying to actually promote our activities with partners in the US, in Southeast Asia, in India, in Canada most recently, but also trying to draw these partnerships so that we can benefit from all these international developments.
Okay, thank you.
And last but not least, we have Milos Ristovski, a board member of the European Youth Forum. Milos, in what way can the European Youth Forum play a role in the digital future of Europe?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. I am Milos, I'm the Secretary General of the European Youth Forum. My colleague was the board member, but we replaced ourselves, no problem. The European Youth Forum is the largest youth platform in the world, and with that in Europe, we are representing, as we say, the 25% of the European continent, with representing platforms of youth organizations both from local, European, and national level. What we do is, as it says, we are a forum where we gather all of our members and we discuss on very different topics. They are very interested in the topic, and thank you very much for the invitation. What we say as a starting point in the first round, we'll say that when we speak on this topic, we actually feel a bit the pressure where we see ourselves as the digital natives. Is because generally when it happens with young people, we're always invited here as the digital natives, but it's quite a diverse group. So I'm very happy to bring in a bit this point on representing a bit of a more diverse group of young people and not necessarily only the digital natives as we are put in every panel discussion when it comes to topics like digitalization and AI.
Okay, but you're very glad that you're here, eh?
Yes. First question, maybe as a warm-up for the panel. We just heard the presentation by Patricia Besson. What is the main takeaway you guys take from that presentation? Feel free to dive in.
For me, the main thing that you said as a professor is that we need new people, we need new brains, and we need people who are able to collaborate from research to business. And so we cannot train engineers like in the past. We need new kind of engineers which are more innovative. Those engineers will be human augmented by AI. And so we cannot train them as standalone human. If they are using AI, they have to be clever in the use of AI. They have to keep skills, to develop their skills when they use AI. And so we need new types of guys. We cannot develop a software engineer by asking the software engineer, develop your program. We wait 6 months, and then we will see the result. We know that those people will have to be connected more directly to the end user to better understand the problem of people. And this is the thing for me which is very important. We need to train new kind of engineers, and I'm very happy that there are young representatives here because you will invent the new way those things will run.
Okay, thank you.
I also agree that I like Patricia saying that there is no sense of data without the capacity to integrate. And what we see every day working with our Estonian clients and SMEs is that when we have researchers and knowledge on one side and we have companies' needs on the other side, so we really need a new kind of mindset and new kind of team leaders to actually integrate those two things. And it's a huge work in terms of translating the needs of both sides. I agree.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, what I retained from your presentation was also the focus on the industrial elements we have in Europe, and it made me think that somehow we should work on our brand maybe more as Europe, you know, and I think that we're at an interesting stage where we could slowly develop what does it mean to be made in Europe in terms of digital technology? What is the differential we have compared to areas like China? Maybe it could be good technology on the cost side. US maybe is more about radical innovation. And Europe, at the end of the day, is about our values, the trust you mentioned, but it's also about robust products, higher quality maybe. So maybe we could work on this collectively. What is made in Europe as a brand?
Okay. Finish maybe.
Yeah, I think that I'm just going to be mostly echoing on what was said before. I think that the word that stayed for me was trustworthiness, which I think that for young people is very important, especially when it's linked with a sustainable agenda. We believe that for us, it's important to have education processes. It's important for this to be discussed also in different fora, through informal education, non-formal education, to be part of the everyday life. But for young people, that's not that far away. But we believe that as an additional point for us is really to have the sustainability agenda when it comes to bringing trust towards technologies that we'll be able to work with and
Good.
be
Thank
engaged.
you. Okay. Now let's talk also about the human aspect of digitization. Patricia, you mentioned it already. It was in the middle of the circle. It plays a crucial role in making digitization successful. And we know that a huge amount of knowledge is concentrated among researchers in Europe. And during the keynote in the morning of Anna Barjasic, we've heard that we need more entrepreneurship. How can we turn the researchers into entrepreneurs in the latest digital technologies? It's a long question, but...
Yes, I love to comment that. IRIS Center is part of Tallinn University of Technology, so my everyday work is to work with teams of researchers and also other universities in Estonia. And I really feel that we are working with a change of mindset. We have research, but when we talk about deployment, knowledge transfer, we really work with new positive mindsets of encouraging researchers to really think about how their ideas could be deployed in the market, but not necessarily becoming everyone should become an entrepreneur himself, but it's about entrepreneurial mindset. No, there is some researchers who will become businessmen, spin-offs, but there are many researchers who are genius and very talented, but that's not necessary that they are entrepreneurs, but it's what's very important is the mindset, the positive mindset. If we continue doing everything like we've done always, there is no innovation. So the mindset to work with teams and companies to find solutions is extremely important. And how Europe, in my opinion, changes from US is also the ability to take risks. And it has to do also with the mindset. Different studies show that Europeans are lower in their ability to take risks and to try new things out. So this is like the soft side, the human side of innovation. I think we should work more in positive thinking.
So for all the researchers in the room here, they don't need to become an entrepreneur, but they need to have the mindset of an entrepreneur.
Those who want to become entrepreneurs, they can be supported, and that is important, but I don't think it's realistic and necessary that all become entrepreneurs.
But the mindset is important.
I would promote more informal network. If you are in the Silicon Valley and you are a young guy, you meet another guy, give a call to a guy who has a lot of money, and they like to play and to take risk. And so I think in Europe we don't give enough trust to the young people. We should put money, a little bit to Thales, of course, but we should also put a lot of money to young people and take risk and establish informal network with businessmen and maybe public fund, but to invest more on young people who like to take risk, and there are people like that. So here we are more...
Taking risks also means that you can fail.
Yeah,
and
to accept that you can fail, and also to have the informal network with business people who have succeeded, and to be able to call not structural network from top to down, from Brussels to Riga, but that should be local network and money that we put. It's not only advice, but clearly money, so that a young guy can hire 3, 4, 5 people and start the business and go forward. So I think that the example of the Silicon Valley could be inspiring, but to transform it at the European level with the European style, I think there are ideas to pick over there. Yeah.
Okay. I see you agree. Yes.
Maybe I want to go back to something Milos mentioned already, and also Patricia during her talk, trustworthiness. I think it's very important that people must be able to trust all these new digital technologies that are being developed. We are now being confronted with deep fake. You can find fake porn images of Taylor Swift on the internet. What do you think can be done to make sure that when I ask, for instance, a question at ChatGPT, that I can get an unbiased answer, that I'm not being fed things that are not true? What can be done in Europe to preserve that?
What we like on our side, for example, in the field of medicine or in other fields where decisions have to be taken for patients, is to have not only an interaction between one human and an AI, but to have a team interaction. And so we like to have active learning, where the people ask an advice to an AI and then ask an advice to a second human, and to have collective decision. We need to establish trust to use AI in teams. And I think if we do so, we can take better decisions because it will even better to use the AI than only the humans, because AI will see things that human doesn't see. But the collective decision, the second advice of a human, and to have a continuous active learning of the system is important. We are working on new models based, which are called coalitional active learning, where a group of humans is collectively progressing in the use, in the trust use of the AI, because they are, with different opinion, connected to the AI. It's maybe one path to have more trust in what is produced and to avoid deepfake and things like that. So group of humans will always be very important. To have community of people, to have coalition of people is very important to establish trust.
Mm-hmm. Maybe someone else who wants to jump in?
Just if I can say some, adding something to what Benoît just said. Yes, it's very interesting. There's a collective aspect for verification, that kind of situation. Because when we are speaking about validating a knowledge basis, and how can you validate knowledge in the world? I mean, if you see if you look at how it is doing, if you look at how it is done already now, without artificial intelligence, take the example of Wikipedia. You got some collective redaction, collective validation of the content.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I mean, we have to think
Wikipedia,
about validating AI. Depending of the
collectively
functionality of AI, we'll have different kind of validation, and you have to get inspired by how we are doing today with systems where there is not AI.
If I may add something, because your question is typical of actually people believing that technology coming from the US is safe and secure sometimes, whereas very often it is more experimental than you may imagine. I mean, it's, for instance, many people were saying that Tesla so-called autopilot, which actually is not at all an autopilot, would not have been allowed immediately in the EU because it is actually quite risky and there have been a number of casualties. So again, going back to my example of this Made in Europe brand, EU is the only place where you have actually legislation that can guarantee that the AI will be safe and secure. Same thing on cybersecurity. I mean, we are the only continent that has put forward legislation for cybersecurity in products. So maybe I think the first thing we should do is also be very transparent about the technology and what it can do. Today, if you ask people what they think about AI, they will think about Terminator spontaneously. You know, they think about these Hollywood movies. It's very, very far from the reality of what the technology is doing, but I think that collectively, we miss really the information about what really the risks are and what the benefits are from our regulation. And that's why I think in Europe, we have a chance today that we have the regulatory framework that can actually guarantee a certain level of safety, a certain level of trust, and a certain level of consumer protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we will, yes, if you want to add something.
Just to add something about the European flavor. If you are in the US, the big market is driving the things. If you are in China, it's the central state which is driving the things. So you have a lot of uniformity. Here in Europe, we have a lot of diversity, different way of thinking. And so we have different models, different approach, and we have to keep that. We have to keep research in the different places of Europe and keep the diversity in the model. And this is a strong security. It's more than regulation. It's to have diversity of opinion, diversity of way of working, and it guarantees that we will be more robust, more resilient, if we preserve the diversity of thinking, the diversity of processing the things in Europe. So we should avoid the uniformity system that is deployed in China and in US, and we should keep our diversity, our cultural diversity, and the different ecosystem connected together. That's a big chance for me for resilience and for robustness of what we are developing.
Let's talk about regulation, because we have had several breakout sessions and there was something very interesting.
Yeah, maybe to talk further about what you just mentioned. When we talk about regulation, we have the US model. You have indeed models like China. We are not China, not the US. We are the European Union. But something that stood out today was when you talk about regulation and during this breakout session of cybersecurity. There you could hear that there's too much regulation, going too fast, and they cannot hold up the pace. And here on stage, we talked about AI and regulation, and there was some unexpected uniformity in the way that everyone was applauding the regulation going on in the EU. What lessons can be learned from that different way of looking at regulation? Maybe that's something Thibaut can shed his light on.
Yes, I mean, part of my task is also to deal with better regulation, as we call it. And in that context, clearly, in the EU, we try to provide smart regulation. So it's not just regulation for the sake of it. It's actually designed to address specific problems. And you mentioned AI, you mentioned cybersecurity. Each type of regulation has its parameters and its specificities. For AI, the purpose was to basically create trust, because without some degree of regulation in Europe, people are a little bit hesitant to use new technologies. So what we have done for AI was really, I would say, a minimal regulation, which is actually very close somehow to self-regulation, because it's about these companies looking at their own products and making sure that the risks can be taken care of. So in a way, each time we design some legislation, it is meant to address a specific purpose. For cybersecurity, the risk was quite different. It was much more that you have a lot of IT elements in products, and that they are not always very well understood because they need to connect over time to different parameters. So again, a different type of legislation is at stake. And really the difficulty is to make sure that you do as much as needed and as little as necessary. So that's really, these are some of the parameters we use to design legislation in a way that is as smart as possible. But I think, again, a differential between Europe and the rest of the world is that we do not shy away from regulation. Because in the US, I can tell you, when I'm there, you have a lot of partners who are desperate because their Congress doesn't work. They are not able to pass any legislation in the digital area. So they are sometimes very happy that we can do that in Europe because we have a democratic system where people say, we in Europe want a certain type of technology that respects our human rights, that protects children, that gives everyone access in the same conditions.
Okay, very happy with regulation. Is that something the other members in the panel?
Yeah. For me, regulation is not enough. We need to develop the critical thinking about the use of AI. And so it's very important to create social appropriation and to have a continuous, because you regulate things at a certain point, but the new technology, new way of using it can appear. So it's very important to have citizen group education of young people and to have collective thinking. You were speaking about democracy, but democracy is also the citizen in the street, and they have to be active in the way we use that kind of technology, and they have to participate and to be in a position to be able to critically think about the use of this technology. So regulation is not enough. We need also social appropriation of those technologies, social critical thinking. It's very important. And again, the young people have a key role to play, and we have to give you the floor. You have to be in the front line because it's your future. Huh? We are the past. I am the past. You are the future. So it's your role to be in the front line there. Yeah.
Okay.
More education is needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want to comment as well, that as a EDIH manager in Estonia, we really need to provide awareness about the EU AI Act, that it's companies fear that it's something like GDPR, it comes quickly without awareness, what kind of sanctions they have. So we have taken the role of, as soon as possible, we do have webinars and information and about the phases of how it will be adapted and what does it mean per sector for health tech, for autonomous vehicles to go in use cases, because companies also fear, and maybe also some researchers, that it will not improve innovation, but it's not true, but that's something we can do with awareness.
Okay, good. Now, somebody want to add something? No? Okay. From An helicopter view, what have you all noticed from the breakout sessions? What are the other takeaways? Thibaut, you want to start? You want to start?
Yeah, why not? I mean, my colleagues were, dispatched around all the breakout sessions. So I think that
you had your spies
overall
everywhere.
it was quite rich, and they gave me a few notes, so I can tell you that there were lots of interesting elements. I mean, I have some keywords I would flag, for instance, from the discussions. Complexity was a word that came up because it's true, as you say, Europe is about diversity. But it means also sometimes too much diversity, too much complexity. So maybe that's a theme we need to work around for the future, make sure that people understand where to go when they want funding, how the rules work, and how to make things as easy as possible for researchers, for SMEs, so that at the end of the day, we also scale up, which was another important element. Another keyword that came up quite often was ecosystems. So ecosystem is really what we need to build. This is the key to innovation, and probably from research to reality is through these ecosystems that encompass many elements. And also maybe an element that we should underline is that many were quite positive about some of our programs, like Digital Europe. I was very happy to hear that as a new program, it's working. We have these areas that are very clear, very understandable, high-performance computing, quantum elements around AI, around data. We need to keep that, but we need precisely to nurture the ecosystem so that it delivers on special solution. And maybe a final buzzword was also speed. We need to be faster in terms of getting from the project ID to the project results. And we need to make sure that also we realize maybe what is happening. I mean, we should have had ChatGPT in Europe. How come we didn't have it, whereas we have all these great minds and great efforts? So again, speed was another buzzword that came out strongly.
Speed it up, it was also a takeaway from
our
because
session. In one of our sessions, someone mentioned the big players in AI are not in Europe. Should we change that? In the future, should we be the continent where it begins instead of...
When you were asking the takeaway from session, I attended the session dedicated to data, and I was very impressed by a concept to give the citizen the ownership of his own data. We provided all our data to Google, Facebook, and so forth, and so Americans were in the front line to create large language model and ChatGPT behind that. And so to go back to the ownership of the European citizen with their own data, there are some models, Solid and PODS, that have been presented, but that was a flash for me to give back to the European citizen the ownership of her own data. This is something, a nice goal to pursue, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, go on to
yes, of course.
Lost
yes,
when
you
we
can add something. Yeah.
Thank you. So no, it's just with my colleagues, we did a bit of observation and just seeing on how the panels, and it's more of a general comment that we would like to give is that when we speak about youth participation, it was mentioned several times also here, is that we want to see youth participation as users, but also youth participation as in a lot of places, the drivers between startups and everything. And for us, what is very important is to, and it was always said, to retain this in Europe. We think that it's very important that, and this can be retained only that in panels or in fora or in spaces where it's discussed, where young people have the space to sit there and not necessarily be seen only as we have it now here. This is, we take this as a very positive example, but we are just reinforcing this to be the custom in order to retain, because we have so many examples of young people deciding to start something here and continue in some other continent, in the US or in Asia, just because of somehow we are not succeeding to retain that, and that's probably something that we are as a takeaway this moment of, which probably goes in line with what you said, that we have to more quickly react on certain challenges. And then also make sure that the communication that happens in fora like this or whatever comes is also done in an accessible way that people understand. Mm-hmm. Because we succeed on these topics to really close it up in a small group of people that understand this language. So this in general will be another takeaway that we would like to bring in on this moment of having more spaces where this is discussed in more of an informal context and not necessarily only in panels and fora like this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just with respect to the question about the big players in AI that are not in Europe, I mean, what I said in my talk is that, okay, but in that case, AI is the product. So, I mean, artificial intelligence in the end is just a brick. And what do we want to do with that? We want to produce some services, some functionality that are very useful. I mean, like the one that the GAFA are providing. But where you are providing some performances and you just ask the user to decide by themselves whether they will trust it, whether they will use it properly and for what, and to find the utility of that, and without really looking at the quality, the trust that you will have in what you output. And in Europe, we got some very high strength in industry to stay at the top world level. We have to be at the cutting edge. And AI is a brick that has to be used for that. And I mean, we have the same level of expertise. We have big, nice researchers, nice experts that even go outside from Europe to work, and they can stay here and work for AI as an enabler for our products, where here we are able to be strong and to deliver qualitative AI, I mean, for qualitative services.
Okay, thank you, Patricia. Digital Europe program, Thibaut, you mentioned it already, you're also responsible for the program. You said the results are positive, but now the next steps, what is the role of a member state to realize impact from these results?
No, I mean, member states have an essential role to play overall, I think, in what we are doing. And I think the vision of Digital Europe was that it's a program where it's 50-50, so 50% funding from member states, 50% from the union. And really at the heart of it is this idea of partnership somehow, that we choose common priorities and we are in this together. And I think that this is really what I think we should reinforce in the future as well, you know, how to come from national initiatives that from day one think Europe. We need to really join forces because digital is about scale. And if we don't work in these so-called multi-country projects, the risk is very much that we will spend money, we won't get the impact. So I think that really for Digital Europe, but also for the so-called European Digital Infrastructure Consortium, you know, the EDICS, we had I'm really happy last week, we had the first ones really endorsed and launched, so it is a reality as well. We can work together with member states, not necessarily all 27, but several of them join forces in these multi-country projects and making sure that we deliver real solutions in these technologies in the digital sector.
Okay, thank you, Thibaut. Finally, we also want to look ahead with you, with our panelists, to the digital future of Europe after 2030. So Europe represents or is one of the largest economic blocs in the world, but lags behind in areas such as investments in artificial intelligence. Can increased collaboration be a solution? And if so, how should this be done, according to you? It's a difficult one?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's not difficult.
I think, yeah, ecosystem development and regionally being close to your client is a key also in digitalization. That's what we see. And it's also in building up trust with your SMEs in your region. And then based on that trust, you can actually rely on the whole network in Europe. That's what we experience in the second year of running our EDICs. So we have around 170 clients in the second year of running the EDIC, and now they trust our network and they go actually to get the services of other EDICs. So this could be one way of boosting deployment and testing digitalization in various and wide level of SMEs, networking.
Okay.
When discussing with Kirke and Patricia, is the goal to be the best in AI and to be the strongest in AI? Or is the goal to be the best builder of airplanes, the best people for caring, new ways of caring, new way of producing cultural contents? So maybe AI is just a tool to be the best in the strong points where we are in Europe. Plain, drug discovery, new way of caring people with medication and so forth. And probably it's good also to say how to use AI to stay the strongest where we are the strongest. Maybe it's a message that you brought to us, Patricia, exactly. and appreciate this idea. Not to think of AI per se, but why we do AI. We do AI for the industry, to be the best in some niche, and we want also AI to develop new way of caring, new way of teaching, new way of working, new way of participation in the democracy, and we have always to be on the final goal. And then it's very important for Europe. But AI per se is just a technology, and so I would more focus to use it to develop the strong point of Europe.
Yeah. So not AI for the sake of AI.
Yes, that's what we face every day in our work. We must talk about impact and results, and also that was the keynote speaker's remark, that we talk more about impact in a very narrow AI sense, how it impacts our lives. AI is just a tool, and that's how you build trust, in fact.
You told me just before our discussion.
Okay, somebody wants to add something, Patricia?
I totally agree with what Admi said.
Okay.
And just about the question of is collaboration a solution to go further? Yes, I think yes. But the thing is that we have to build this collaboration in an impactful way. Like it was said this morning at one of the keynote sessions this morning that we will not have a single player that will be at the top in all the sector of the complete value chain of the ecosystem. So we have to build this into collaborative project, into collaborative action, to find the correct partners to go on together, so that in the end, you got a very impactful ecosystem, impactful value chain that is created. And the second point is, as I mentioned, for the collaboration to be effective, you have to find a realistic way to share the data and to deal on that, because else you will just set at the proof of concept, like with toys example, with like publicly available data, but not the data that are really the one that you need for the new functionality that you want to set in your system.
Okay, Thibault, maybe?
I would like actually to nuance a bit this idea that AI is just a tool, because let's be clear, this is going to be a major disruption. And I think this morning we heard, the CEO of IMEC showing, what is happening to the car industry comparing to the mobile industry. I mean, let me just remind you that I think it was in 2009, Nokia had something like 40% of the global market in mobile telephony. Mm-hmm. And in 3 years, basically they almost disappeared from the market. So let's be clear, we have basically 5 years to get disrupted from these new technologies. And if Europe is not able to take the measure of the transformation needed, sorry, but we are not going to be able to maintain our prosperity, because we are just going to lose out in terms of market shares, in terms of competitiveness. And this is a very serious challenge. So I think that, let's not pretend that, the technology is just going to be there to, amuse, our very established industry. It's going to destroy our industries if we are not careful. So we better embrace it and shape it in line also with our values and with our society. Because if we don't do it ourselves, somebody else will do it for us, and then we will have only to regret it.
I do not disagree, but what I want to say is, for example, in the field of drug discovery, if you use AI in silico models and you use artificial intelligence to develop drug, it takes 3 years instead of 10 years from the starting idea to the patient. So it has a huge impact, because you can explore, AlphaFold for proteins. You have many things that helps you to develop faster medication. What I say is that if we have a strong industry in the drug discovery, we have to work on artificial intelligence and use this disruption to make the move on the final product, which is the medication to the patient. And if we are the strongest in the world, and we will become the strongest in the world in drug discovery based on in silico model and artificial intelligence, then the deal is done. It's more important than to have the ChatGPT that
I agree,
everybody.
but let's not be complacent. Is also my message. I mean, today we may be strong. Tomorrow, we need to be still at the.
Yeah, because
What I love to your message is that there are a lot of nationally funded projects, and we have to think when we have nationally funded projects, we have to think Europe and connection to be stronger. That was a strong message that I keep for the next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
But to tackle in on what you just said, you can be the best, but when there's not a level playing field, for instance, when you look at the car industry now, we can be one of the best car makers in the world in Europe. If your market is being flooded with cheaper cars from the East, then you can be the best, but you can still disappear. Now, there's rumor that Audi is going to close its factory in Brussels to move it to China or to Mexico. Then you can be the best. So how are we going to tackle that challenge? You can be the best, but it's not a level playing field.
There is a strong move of all the European car manufacturers to share their data and to keep the data knowledge and in Europe. So there are a strong motion of the European car industry to stay in the front run by using data and artificial intelligence. And yeah, we have to care. There are a lot of Tesla on the street nowadays, and we still want to have a strong European industry, but we have to have the tools for this industry. So I'm back on the talk of Patricia. We have really to think AI in support of a business behind, and industrial business is very important. Drug discovery is very important. There are things which are very important for Europe, and we have to be strong there, more than to have a European ChatGPT. I do not mind so much, but to have the strongest AI in support of industry and other important economic fields this is very important to keep our richness. Yeah.
Okay, Milos, how does the youth view these investments?
No, I think that this goes, it's a very big discussion point. We as a platform, we have members from all diversity. We have members from different political party, youth wings, and groups that are being represented. But that in general, what is very important always for us is that in any process, and especially in trust building and in a space where we want to be loyal to a project, and if Europe is the project we want to be loyal to, if that's the message we want to bring, where Europe as project is something we want to be loyal to, we have to make sure that in the end, nobody is left behind. And I think this is probably the message that will be the most important for us as young people in this process, is that we can advance a lot, but we always have to think that there is certain countries, if you go on a national level, there is certain groups, minority groups, that can be easily left behind if we just see the progress on one of the sides. And for us, for young people, this is something that it's very important as a strong message, is to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind on purchasing something, because we are loyal towards certain brands, or we are loyal towards Europe if we make sure that everybody's there. And this goes very much in the first points that we started discussing today in this discussion, is on why don't we communicate what we have done for Europe in a good way, and this is probably something that will be one of the most important points to break out after this discussion.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll do one final round of this panel discussion. Just what's the takeaway of this closing session? What is the conclusion of today, even, if I may say?
Well, for me, it's paraphrasing what I said, but it's focusing on AI as an enabler, because we have some strengths in Europe with the existing industry. And this means demanding AI, so focusing also on improving, getting to trustworthiness in AI.
Okay, thank you, Patricia.
It's again, we're all repeating ourselves, but then it really is following up on this, is making sure that we educate the different citizen groups in seeing AI as an enabler, and making sure that they see AI and digitalization as a partner to the larger project that Europe is, which is through all its values. So I guess that is something that will be very important for us in this process.
Okay, thank you. Thibaut, you will also add something?
No, for me, I would say that I would come back to this idea of made in Europe. I think that we are really at a very interesting point now because we've closed somehow our legislative agenda. So we have in place basically all the framework conditions in terms of legislation, in terms of funding, in terms of communities. So now really is our chance to shine and to disrupt, I would say, these various industries to our benefit so that we make sure that we are leading the future. So really, made in Europe to lead the future would be, for me, the conclusion.
Thank you.
For me, I would use a sentence from a French writer who said that every 20 years, the new generation is asking questions to the elders that they are unable to answer. And I think we need to give more power to the young generation to help them to create startups and to help them to be the inventor of the new world. And so I would say a lot of investment on young people and trust to them.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, I would still talk about the mindset, the positive mindset, again, that we have more impact-oriented applied research to validate and deploy, that we go TRL 1, TRL 2, but we already aim what do we change in society. That we really defined for researchers the change, the impact. That's something for me.
Okay, very interesting. I think we can close this panel discussion. But first of all, let's see what Axel, what she has took away from this session. Axel, maybe we can film it a little bit, and afterwards you can also come and see what she did. Really interesting, the whole closing session on the board. Thank you,
Nice.
Axel. Yes.
Okay, and with that, we've come to the end of this closing session and also the end of this conference. I hope it was an inspiring day for you all.
Yes, I want to thank all the speakers from today, and also I want to thank you for your presence.
And I think now is the most important time of the day. It's time for the reception, where you can continue the conversation and the network. Just a little tip, if you want to enjoy some nice music from Alice on the Roof, you should be at the Riverside in about half an hour.
And the beer is made in Europe, even made in Belgium.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's a good one. Have a nice evening. Bye.